We have all been there. The garment is finished, the fit is perfect, and it's time for buttonholes. It feels like gamble because, let's be honest, a one-step method feels like the machine is in control, not you, and a four-step, it's confusing loop of identical settings. Today I'm going to show you how to sew a buttonhole using 3 different methods, but most importantly I'm going to share you with a secret, how to take back control. I'll show you how to mark the goalposts, the start and end points of the buttonhole line, so you know exactly where the sewing machine is going before you get to it. No more overstitching, no more thread jams, and more importantly, no more ruined projects. We're taking the guesswork out and putting the logic back in. Before we even touch the buttonhole setting, we have to talk about the foundation. If your fabric is floppy, your machine is going to eat it. It's that simple. So the first secret to a professional finish is stabilization. I'm just using a scrap rectangle here to show you the logic, but the rule stays the same. Fuser interfacing to the reverse side. This isn't just a suggestion, it's what stops the dreaded puckering and tunneling later on. I'll be showing you how to build and stabilize a full button stand on a real shirt in an upcoming video tutorial, but for now let's get this piece rock solid. Now we fold and prep the stand. Even if you're like me and usually work with self-drafted patterns without a manual, the geometry here matters. You want a clean, stable edge. I'm running a quick straight stitch here to secure everything so nothing shifts when zigzagging starts. And finally, give it a good press. This isn't just about removing the wrinkles, it is about setting these stitches and ensuring that the fabric is completely flat. A flat button stand is a predictable button stand, and we need this predictability before we get on with the sewing. Now that our button stand is stabilized, we are moving from prep to precision. We need to mark exactly where the button is going to live. I'm using a seam gauge here, but any ruler works. The secret isn't the tool, it is the measurement. I measured the diameter of my button and add about 3 mm as an allowance for the ends. If you're using a chunky, deep button, you might need a tiny bit more, so it doesn't get stuck later. I start by marking dots for the top and bottom of each hole, ensuring the spacing between them is perfectly even. This is where most people get nervous. But remember, we're just mapping out the logic for the machine to follow. Once the dots are down, I connect them with a straight line. This line is your center track. It's what keeps your buttonhole from drifting off to one side. But here's a real game changer. I add a small horizontal dash at each end to create a T at the top and reverse T at the bottom. These are your goalposts. They give you a high visibility finish line, so you know exactly when to stop and pivot, especially on a 4-step or manual machine. No more guessing, no more overshooting, just total control. Now that our goalposts have been marked, let's get into the sewing. Don't worry if your sewing machine doesn't have an automatic buttonhole setting. The 4-step method actually gives you a lot more control. Here's a foot we'll be using. It has these handy guides on the side to help you track your progress. Here's the part that usually trips people up. For a 4-step buttonhole, we actually sew from the bottom up. I aligned the foot with that reverse T we marked earlier. This is why those markings are so vital. They tell you exactly where your starting line is before you even lower the needle. On the machine, you'll see the dial divided into 4 steps. It looks like a lot of symbols, but the secret is just following the sequence. I set my stitch widths to the maximum and the lengths almost at 0, usually between 0 and 1, to get the nice dense satin stitch. Step 1 is the bottom bar tack. Step 2 takes us up to the left side. Notice how I'm watching my T marks. I stop as soon as I hit the top. Step 3 caps it off. And step 4 brings us back down to the right side to finish the loop. Because you're the one changing the dial, you're in total control of the length. And there it is. By building the fence one side at a time and using those goalposts, you get the perfectly symmetrical results. No guessing, no panic, just logic. If you have a computerized sewing machine, most likely you have a 1-step automatic buttonhole setting. It sounds like a dream, but as I'm about to show you, automatic doesn't always mean perfect. Every sewing machine has its own personality, and since I'm switching sewing machines mid-project, I need to recalibrate my brain. The setup is simple. You pop your button into the back of the foot, and that tells the machine exactly how long to make the hole. Snap the foot on and, this is the crucial step, pull down the buttonhole lever. If you forget this, the machine won't know when to stop and you'll end up with a never-ending line of zigzags. Unlike the 4-step, this machine sews from the top down. I select my basic straight edge buttonhole and let the feed dogs do the work. It is tempting to pull or push the fabric here, but the secret to a clean stitch density is to let the machine guide itself. Just keep your hands light. Now look closely at this result. It's a clean stitch, but it's actually landed a bit lower than my markings. Why? Because I switched sewing machines mid-project and I did not account for different starting points. This is exactly why I always tell you, don't go for a ride on a final garment before you have practiced on a scrap fabric first. Every sewing machine needs a different approach and calibration, so you need to practice on a scrap fabric before you get onto the final project. If you're using an older sewing machine or a basic one that doesn't come with a buttonhole setting, then don't panic. You can still get the job done manually. In fact, this is the method I would use in a thicker fabric where the buttonhole would just throw a tantrum. It's all about manual logic. We start by creating our own bar tacks. I set my stitch length to 0 and my width to a wide zigzag. I'm going slow here, manually stitching 5 or 6 times at the top of my goalposts to create a solid anchor. Then I narrow that zigzag down to about 1.5 or 2 millimeters for the sides. For extra durability, you can run a quick straight stitch down the center first. Then I carefully guide the needle down the left side of my marking. You have to be the pilot here. There is no automatic stop, so you're watching those T marks like a hawk. As you can see, I'm taking this very slow. Because you're controlling the feed and the widths manually, it's much harder to get that perfect factory look symmetry. The secret here isn't that special setting, it's muscle memory. As you can see from the result, it's not quite as retail perfect as the one step, but is strong and functional. This method requires most practice before you touch the final garment. This is a core skill that you can have in your back pocket for whenever the automatic machine doesn't want to cooperate. We have done the hard part, but now it's the most nerve-wracking bit. We need to cut open the buttonholes. If you have ever sliced through your bar tack and ruined your shirt, you know exactly why this step matters. My first secret is simple. Use pins as safety bumpers. I place them at both ends of the hole to act as a physical stop for the blade. The most common way is using a sharp seam ripper. You poke through the center and slide towards the pins. It works, but as you can see here, it often leaves these tiny fuzzy loose threads behind. It's functional, but it's not always the cleanest look, especially on loosely woven fabrics. If you want a truly professional retail quality finish, this is the method that I prefer, using the buttonhole chisel. I place the project on a cutting mat, making sure there is nothing underneath it, and then I place the chisel at the center. I start at the slight angle to find my mark, then straighten up and push down firmly. See the difference? The chisel makes a perfect clean, vertical cut without pulling at those side stitches. You get a significantly less looser threads and a lot cleaner opening. Whichever method you're using, the logic is the same. Go slow, use a backup stop, and don't let a 5-second cut ruin hours of sewing. Now that you've got the logic of a buttonhole down, the real fun can begin, actually putting on something. If you want to see the exact steps in a high-res photos or at a slower pace, I've put the full tutorial on my blog for you. I am currently in the middle of a massive project, a full tutorial on how to draft a shirt sewing pattern from scratch with a sewing to match, and this is where we can put the skills of a buttonhole sewing on a real garment. In the meantime, if you want to get ahead of the game, go and check out my basic bodice blog drafting tutorial. It is a foundation that I use pretty much for everything I draft. Or if you're itching to practice the buttonhole sewing on a smaller project that isn't a full shirt, then check out my reusable century pad sewing tutorial. It is a great low stakes way to master the manual or the one-step automatic methods we practice today. I'll see you over in those videos to keep the momentum going.